A poised black woman extends her hand across the polished conference table. The white executive, Leonard Harrison, glances at it with undisguised disdain. "I don't shake hands with staff," he says, smirking at his colleagues. The room temperature seems to drop several degrees. She withdraws her hand with practiced composure. "I'm not staff," she states quietly. Leonard laughs, turning to his all-male executive team. "Then what are you doing in my building?" She opens her leather portfolio with deliberate movements, deciding whether to withdraw my $2 billion investment. Her voice never rises above conversational level. The room freezes. Leonard's smile vanishes. The executive's face drains of color as security guards suddenly stand at attention. Olivia Johnson steps out of her deliberately modest sedan in the Terra Nova Technologies parking lot. At 45, she carries herself with quiet confidence, her understated elegance a calculated choice. Today's mission: evaluate whether Terra Nova deserves a $2 billion investment from her venture capital firm. She surveys the gleaming headquarters with practiced neutrality. Glass and steel stretch skyward, a monument to tech success and, from her research, potentially toxic corporate culture. Inside, the receptionist, Miranda, glances up with a customer service smile that falters when she sees Olivia. "I'm here for my 10 o'clock with Leonard Harrison," Olivia states. Miranda's eyebrows lift slightly. "Are you with the administrative applicants? HR is on the 3rd floor." "I have an appointment with Mr. Harrison directly." Olivia's voice remains even. "Olivia Johnson." Miranda checks her screen, skepticism evident. "Oh, please wait in that area." She gestures to a side seating section rather than the plush VIP lounge where 2 white men in suits are currently being served coffee. Olivia notes this but takes a seat without comment. She observes everything: the flow of employees, predominantly white and male, the hushed tones when someone glances her way, the assumptions operating beneath the surface. 45 minutes pass before Harrison's assistant retrieves her. Not the executive boardroom, but a small, windowless meeting room awaits. Leonard Harrison barely looks up from his phone when she enters, gesturing vaguely toward a chair across the table. 3 other executives, all white men in variations of the same gray suit, exchange knowing glances. One suppresses a yawn. Internally, Olivia recognizes the pattern. 20 years in finance has taught her to read these signals with precision. Each slight is familiar: the extended wait, the downgraded room, the dismissive greeting. She decides to observe how far they'll take the disrespect before revealing her position. Harrison finally sets down his phone. He looks at Olivia for the first time, his gaze a cursory assessment. "So you're here about some diversity initiative?" His tone suggests this is an obligation to be endured rather than a meeting of equals. "I'm here to discuss potential investment opportunities," Olivia clarifies calmly. Harrison barely conceals his skepticism. "Right. Investment." The word carries an undercurrent of disbelief. As Harrison prepares his condescending pitch, Olivia's phone vibrates with a text from her CFO. "Confirm. 2B ready to deploy or withdraw based on your assessment." "Let me walk you through what we do here at Terra Nova," Harrison begins, pulling up a presentation clearly designed for non-technical audiences. The slides feature cartoonish graphics and oversimplified diagrams. "We're developing cutting-edge AI solutions for enterprise clients." He speaks with exaggerated slowness, pausing after basic concepts. "Are you following so far?" he asks after explaining what an algorithm is. Behind him, one executive whispers something to another, prompting muffled laughter. Olivia leans forward slightly. "Your prospectus mentions a proprietary deep learning architecture. Could you elaborate on how it differs from conventional transformer models, particularly regarding inference latency when deployed at scale?" Harrison blinks, momentarily thrown. He fumbles with the presentation remote. "Well, it's quite technical. Maybe my CTO could explain the complicated stuff later." His eyes dart to his colleagues for support. "I'm also curious about the discrepancy in your Q2 financial statements," Olivia continues. Your reported R&D expenditure dropped 22% while claiming expanded research initiatives. How do those figures reconcile? Harrison's expression hardens. He presses a button to advance the slides rapidly, skipping past financial details. I think these complex financial matters might be a bit beyond the scope of our discussion today. Perhaps we should focus on more appropriate topics, like how Terra Nova approaches diversity initiatives. His emphasis on appropriate hangs in the air. Inside Harrison's mind, alarms are sounding. This woman clearly knows her stuff, far more than anticipated. Rather than adjust his approach, he doubles down on condescension, his fragile authority threatened. "Let's take a quick break," Harrison announces abruptly. "Devin, ask Melissa to bring in some coffee." He turns to Olivia with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "How do you take yours? Lots of cream and sugar, I bet." The racist implication sits heavily in the room. The executives exchange glances, some uncomfortable, others silently amused. Olivia registers every micro-expression, every unspoken exchange. She closes her portfolio with deliberate slowness, the soft leather binding making a gentle sound in the sudden silence. Her eyes meet Harrison's directly, unflinching. "Before we continue, I'd like to see your diversity and inclusion statistics for executive positions." Harrison's jaw tightens as he realizes this woman won't be as easily dismissed as he had planned. The meeting reconvenes in a larger conference room. Harrison has summoned additional reinforcements, including Marcus Phillips, Terra Nova's diversity officer and, tellingly, the only other person of color in the building above entry level. "Marcus will walk us through our diversity initiatives," Harrison announces, his tone suggesting he's being exceptionally accommodating. Marcus stands, clearly rehearsed. "Terra Nova is committed to fostering an inclusive environment. Our hiring of underrepresented minorities has increased 8% year over year." He clicks through slides showing carefully curated photographs of smiling employees from various backgrounds. "What's the retention rate for those hires?" Olivia asks. Marcus falters. "I don't have those specific figures." "And promotion pathways? How many people of color have moved into senior leadership in the past 5 years?" "We've implemented mentorship programs that we believe will bear fruit in the—" Harrison interrupts. "We're making progress. Rome wasn't built in a day." His dismissive wave cuts off further discussion as the conference room door opens. 5 more executives enter, all white men in their 50s. Harrison brightens immediately, standing to exchange firm handshakes and backslaps. Inside jokes flow freely about their recent golf outing. Olivia sits unacknowledged for 3 full minutes. When Harrison finally remembers her presence, his introduction is telling. "Gentlemen, this is Olivia. She's here today to discuss our diversity initiatives. Not Ms. Johnson, not a potential investor, just Olivia, reduced to a first name and an assumed agenda." The executives offer perfunctory nods. 2 don't make eye contact at all. One executive, James Stewart, according to his nameplate, leans toward his colleague and whispers with deliberate audibility, "Diversity quota visit. Play along and she'll be gone by lunch." Olivia notes this without visible reaction, though her pen makes a small mark in her notebook. "Perhaps you'd like to share your story with the group?" Harrison suggests to Olivia, his tone patronizing. "I'm sure everyone would be interested in hearing about your journey." The implication is clear. Her value in this room is as a token, not as a business equal. When Olivia begins discussing market trends instead, Harrison interrupts. "That's not really what everyone is interested in," he says with a forced laugh. "We have plenty of financial analysts. What we'd like to hear is your perspective as a—" He leaves the sentence hanging, but his meaning couldn't be clearer. A white man in a tailored suit enters the room. Harrison immediately stands, extending his hand with genuine respect. "Alan, glad you could join us." After greeting Alan warmly, Harrison turns back toward Olivia. Their eyes meet, and in that moment, Harrison makes his choice. He deliberately places his hands behind his back and states plainly, "I don't shake hands with staff." The room falls uncomfortably silent. Some executives look away, embarrassed but unwilling to intervene. Others smirk slightly, complicit. Olivia doesn't show shock or hurt, only a calm, evaluative gaze. In her mind, this isn't a new wound but confirmation. This is exactly the evidence she came to find, the pattern she's encountered throughout her 20-year climb through finance's hostile terrain. Without breaking eye contact with Harrison, Olivia reaches for her phone and sends a one-word text to her waiting team. Execute. "If you'll excuse me," Olivia says evenly, rising from her seat, "I need to use the restroom." Harrison waves dismissively, already turning his attention back to Alan. The men immediately resume their conversation as if Olivia had never been there. In the privacy of an empty bathroom stall, Olivia allows herself 3 deep breaths, not from distress, but to center her focus. Her hand is steady as she dials a number on her phone. "David," she says when her CFO answers. "Initiate phase 1. "Both options are ready," David confirms. "The investment package or the withdrawal strategy. The team is parked 2 blocks away. On your word, we'll start signaling concerns to key market analysts." "Begin subtle market signals now," Olivia instructs. "Make it look organic, just enough to get attention without revealing our hand." "And the full documentation package?" "Prepare it. I've recorded everything. They've given us exactly what we came for." She ends the call, studies her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back has navigated rooms like this her entire career, rooms where her competence was questioned, her presence resented, her value diminished. But today is different. Today, she holds power they haven't bothered to recognize. Meanwhile, in the conference room, Harrison chuckles with his team. "Another diversity box checked," he says, loosening his tie. "Corporate relations will be pleased we took the meeting. Now, about the Peterson acquisition." His assistant hurries in, tablet in hand, expression anxious. "Sir, there's something you should see." Harrison frowns at the interruption. "What is it, Jessica?" She shows him the screen. Terra Nova's stock has unexpectedly dipped 1.2% in the last 15 minutes. No negative news has broken. No explanation is apparent. "Probably just normal fluctuation," Harrison dismisses, though a flicker of concern crosses his face. Nothing to worry about. When Olivia returns, the mood in the room has subtly shifted. Several executives are checking their phones. Computer screens display stock tickers. "Is something wrong?" Olivia asks innocently. "Nothing to concern yourself with," Harrison replies curtly. "Just some market movement. Listen, Ms." He pauses, realizing he's never properly acknowledged her surname. "I think we've covered everything for today. I'm sure you understand we have real business matters to attend to." "Of course," Olivia agrees pleasantly. "I just need one final meeting with you alone, Mr. Harrison. Then I'll be on my way." Annoyed but eager to conclude her visit, Harrison agrees, leading her to his office while instructing his team to investigate the stock movement. Once the door closes, Olivia's demeanor shifts subtly, still composed, but with an unmistakable firmness. "I'd like to review my experience at Terra Nova today," she begins, her voice measured. "I was kept waiting for 45 minutes. Directed to a side area rather than your VIP lounge, presented with childish explanations of basic concepts, asked repeatedly if I could follow along, interrupted when discussing finance, referred to only by my first name, told my perspective was only valuable as a token, and finally explicitly refused a handshake with the statement that you don't shake hands with staff." Harrison begins to interrupt, but Olivia continues methodically, her tone never rising. "I've recorded our entire interaction. Legally, as Georgia is a one-party consent state." Harrison's face darkens as his phone buzzes with an incoming call flagged, "Urgent, major shareholders." Harrison's phone buzzes again, then again. He glances between it and Olivia, conflict evident on his face. "I need to take this," he says finally, no longer bothering with false courtesy. While Harrison speaks in hushed, urgent tones, Olivia observes his office. The trophies of success displayed with deliberate prominence, the photographs with celebrities and politicians, the conspicuous absence of any women or people of color in leadership roles captured in the company photos. "What do you mean down 3%? Harrison hisses into his phone. "There's no news, no announcement, nothing." He listens, face growing increasingly tense. "Johnson Capital Partners? Never heard of them. Why would they—" He falls silent, listening. His eyes dart to Olivia, then back to his desk. He taps furiously at his computer keyboard, color draining from his face as he reads something on the screen. Olivia can track his discovery in real time, the frantic search for Olivia Johnson, the dawning horror as results populate his screen. Founder and CEO of Johnson Capital Partners, one of the most powerful black-owned investment firms in the country. Over $50 billion in managed assets, known for pulling investments from companies with toxic cultures. Harrison ends his call abruptly and stands, his entire demeanor transformed. The arrogance vanishes, replaced by naked panic. He hurries around his desk toward Olivia. "Ms. Johnson," he begins, voice suddenly obsequious. "I believe there's been a terrible misunderstanding. If I'd known who you were—" "No misunderstanding," Olivia interrupts, standing to match his height. "You were perfectly clear about who you thought I was and how you felt that person should be treated." She moves toward the door. Harrison physically blocks her path. "Please, let's discuss this in private," he pleads, desperation evident. "I'm sure we can come to an arrangement that benefits us both." The commotion draws attention. Employees in the hallway stop, watching. Some discreetly lift phones, recording. The security guards, who had barely acknowledged Olivia's entrance hours earlier, now stand at rigid attention, uncertain whether to intervene as their CEO grows increasingly agitated. "The time for that conversation was when you thought I was nobody," Olivia says, her composure unshaken despite Harrison's looming presence. He reaches for her arm but stops himself, awareness of witnesses dawning on him. "You can't just—" "I can," Olivia states simply. "And I am." She steps around him with practiced grace, the movement of someone who has navigated obstacles her entire career. As Olivia walks toward the exit, Terra Nova's stock price flashes red on lobby monitors, the decline accelerating to 7%. Whispers ripple through Terra Nova's headquarters like electricity. Employees huddle around computer screens, frantically searching Olivia Johnson and Johnson Capital Partners. Articles appear on screens throughout the building. Johnson Capital's history of ethical investment withdrawal. How Olivia Johnson built a $50 billion empire by demanding corporate accountability. Companies that lost billions after Johnson Capital pulled support. In the executive boardroom, Harrison paces frantically. How did no one know who she was? How did this happen? The meeting was just listed as O. Johnson Potential Investor, his assistant explains, voice trembling. There was no detailed briefing because you said it was just a diversity obligation meeting. We need damage control now, Harrison snaps. The executive team, so relaxed and jovial earlier, now sits rigid with tension. James Stewart, who had whispered about the diversity quota, offers his solution. We need to find dirt on Johnson. Everyone has skeletons. We find hers, threaten to go public unless she backs off. Harrison considers this, desperation clouding his judgment. Meanwhile, Olivia returns to her car where David and her executive team await. On tablets and laptops, they monitor Terra Nova's market position in real time. Just our initial signals caused this drop, David explains, showing her the analytics. No public announcement, just strategic calls expressing concerns to key analysts. Imagine what happens when we go public with our decision. Another team member presents Olivia with a leather-bound portfolio. Full documentation of today's discrimination, professionally transcribed with timestamps. We've included contextual industry statistics on executive diversity for comparison. Olivia reviews it meticulously. This isn't just about one company or one man, she says. This is about changing patterns. Back in Terra Nova's boardroom, Harrison's phone rings constantly. Board members demand explanations. The PR team drafts a statement focusing on miscommunications and Terra Nova's commitment to diversity without acknowledging any specific wrongdoing. Harrison attempts to call Olivia directly. A smooth, professional voice answers, "Johnson Capital Partners. This is Leonard Harrison. I need to speak with Olivia immediately." "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison," the executive assistant replies coolly. "Ms. Johnson only takes calls from respectful potential business partners, not staff, as you put it. Would you like to leave a message?" Before Harrison can respond, breaking news alerts appear on every screen in the boardroom. Johnson Capital Partners has released a statement. "We are reconsidering all potential investments in companies without demonstrable inclusive cultures." Terra Nova isn't named specifically, but the timing leaves no doubt about the target. Harrison's phone chimes with a calendar invitation. Final investment decision meeting, Johnson Capital Partners, tomorrow 9 a.m., with a note, "You may bring one attorney." Morning Financial shows buzz with speculation. Terra Nova Technologies experienced an unexplained 12% stock drop yesterday, reports a CNBC anchor. Sources suggest a major potential investor witnessed concerning behavior from CEO Leonard Harrison, though details remain unconfirmed. Harrison arrives at his office to find the company in crisis. Through the glass walls of the main conference room, he sees his board of directors already assembled, without inviting him. Their animated gestures and grim expressions tell him everything. His assistant approaches cautiously, arms laden with papers. "These just came in, sir. Emails from major shareholders demanding explanations about yesterday's stock movement and rumors about Johnson Capital." Harrison grabs the stack, flipping through messages with increasing alarm. Words jump out. Deeply concerned. Fiduciary responsibility. Potential leadership change. Emergency shareholder meeting. Across town at Johnson Capital's downtown headquarters, Olivia conducts her own strategy meeting. Her team reviews documentation and prepares for the upcoming confrontation. "Are we being too harsh?" asks a junior team member. Terra Nova employs thousands of people. This could affect more than just Harrison. Olivia considers the question carefully. "Systemic change requires consequences," she explains. "Companies understand one language fluently: money. The employees deserve better leadership, and the market deserves transparency about what kind of culture their investment supports." Her mind flashes through her career journey. Graduating top of her class only to be offered assistant positions while male classmates received associate titles. Working nights and weekends to prove her worth. Being mistaken for administrative staff at every firm she worked for. Building her own investment company from nothing while potential clients questioned her credentials at every turn. Back at Terra Nova, Harrison huddles with his legal team, preparing for the meeting with Olivia. "We need to save the stock price," he insists, revealing his priorities. "Promise whatever diversity initiatives they want. Just make this go away." His attorney looks skeptical. "My advice is to appear contrite without admitting specific fault. Any explicit admission could trigger shareholder lawsuits." On social media, #TerraNovaToxic begins trending. Anonymous employees share stories. "I was told to straighten my hair if I wanted client-facing roles. My accent was mocked in executive meetings. HR buried 3 discrimination complaints last year alone." In his private bathroom, Harrison practices apologies in the mirror. "Ms. Johnson, I sincerely regret if anything I said was misinterpreted." His phone interrupts the rehearsal, the board chair calling. "Leonard, we've discovered previous discrimination complaints against you that were hidden from the board. Why are we just learning about these now?" As Harrison prepares to leave for the meeting with Olivia, security arrives at his office with a board directive. He is temporarily suspended, effective immediately. Johnson Capital Partners headquarters stands in stark contrast to Terra Nova's flashy tech campus. The building is elegant but understated, its power evident in its prime location rather than ostentatious design. The lobby features artwork from underrepresented artists and a wall displaying the firm's commitment. Building wealth through values. Leonard Harrison arrives precisely at 9 o'clock a.m., his usual entourage conspicuously absent. Only his attorney accompanies him, both men looking tense in the elevator up to the meeting floor. The receptionist greets them politely but without warmth. "Ms. Johnson will see you shortly. Please wait here." She gestures to a seating area. Harrison checks his watch repeatedly as minutes turn to a quarter hour, then half an hour, then 45 minutes exactly, the same time Olivia was kept waiting at Terra Nova. His attorney whispers warnings to stay calm as Harrison's jaw clenches tighter with each passing minute. When they're finally escorted to the conference room, Harrison steps through the door and freezes. This is not the small meeting he expected. Olivia sits at the head of a massive table, now dressed in an impeccably tailored designer suit, subtle jewelry suggesting wealth without flaunting it. Around her sits her full executive team, the company's board of directors, and, most surprisingly, representatives from 3 other major investment firms. The power dynamics couldn't be more reversed from their first meeting. Here, Olivia is unquestionably in command, her authority evident in how everyone defers to her presence. "Mr. Harrison," she says, not rising, "please take a seat." Harrison attempts to take control of the narrative immediately. "Ms. Johnson, I'd like to begin by expressing my sincere regret for any misunderstandings during your visit. Terra Nova values diversity, and if I—" "This isn't about misunderstandings," Olivia interrupts calmly. "This is about accountability." She opens a folder before her. Johnson Capital Partners was considering not just a $2 billion investment in Terra Nova Technologies, but potentially acquiring the company outright. Harrison's attorney shifts uncomfortably beside him. "We've been researching Terra Nova for 6 months," Olivia continues. "Financial analysis, market positioning, competitive landscape, product pipeline, talent management. Yesterday's visit was the final assessment, a character evaluation of leadership." She slides a thick binder across the table. "This documents not just yesterday's incidents, but a pattern throughout Terra Nova's culture." Harrison flips through pages of testimonials from former employees, internal communications, pay disparity statistics, and promotion records, all revealing systematic bias. His face pales. "How did you get these internal documents?" "Former employees who were silenced by NDAs but who legally can speak to potential investors conducting due diligence," Olivia explains. "Your legal department should have advised you of that exception." One of the other investment firm representatives leans forward. "Johnson Capital approached us 3 months ago about a new initiative. We're collectively establishing investment standards that include corporate culture assessments. Companies with discriminatory practices will no longer receive funding, regardless of their profit potential." Another adds, "Terra Nova was our test case. Ms. Johnson volunteered to conduct the final evaluation personally." Harrison suddenly understands the complete reversal. Olivia wasn't seeking his approval or validation. She was determining whether he deserved her money. His attorney whispers urgently in his ear, but he barely registers the words. "Johnson Capital was founded with a specific mission," Olivia says, her voice carrying quiet authority. "For generations, people who look like me had to beg for seats at tables owned by people who look like you. I built my own table." She gestures to the executives around her, diverse in gender, race, and age. "We manage over $50 billion in assets. The coalition of firms represented in this room controls over $200 billion in investment capital." The magnitude becomes clear to Harrison. Terra Nova's future literally sits in the hands of the woman he wouldn't shake hands with yesterday. "This is reverse discrimination," Harrison attempts, desperation evident. "You're targeting me because I'm a white male in a position of power." Olivia's expression doesn't change as she presses a button on a remote. The room's speakers play his voice clearly. "I don't shake hands with staff." The recording continues with his other comments from throughout the day, each more damning than the last. When the audio ends, silence fills the room. Harrison's attorney writes something frantically on a notepad and slides it to him. Harrison ignores it. "What do you want?" he asks finally, defeat evident in his voice. Olivia slides another document across the table. Harrison expects an acquisition offer at a devastatingly reduced price. Instead, he finds a comprehensive list of required changes to Terra Nova's corporate governance, hiring practices, and company culture. "This isn't a negotiation," Olivia states as Harrison reads the document. "It's the only path forward if Terra Nova wants to avoid a complete investor boycott." The fallout unfolds like a controlled demolition, systematic and thorough. Day 1. Terra Nova's board votes unanimously to remove Leonard Harrison permanently. The press release cites leadership inconsistent with company values without specifying details. They appoint CFO Patricia Winters as interim CEO, their first female executive. The stock stabilizes at 15% below its previous value. Day 2. Johnson Capital Partners shares select documentation with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, triggering an official investigation into Terra Nova's hiring and promotion practices. The carefully redacted materials protect individual privacy while establishing clear patterns of discrimination. Day 3. Former employees begin coming forward. NDAs that prohibited speaking about workplace culture are rendered unenforceable by the federal investigation. Stories emerge of systematic marginalization of women and minorities, particularly in technical and leadership roles. Inside Terra Nova's boardroom, the remaining executives grapple with the scale of the crisis. Patricia Winters leads an emergency strategic session. "We have 3 paths," she explains to the somber group. "Fight the allegations and lose both in court and the market. Make superficial changes to weather the storm, or commit to genuine transformation." James Stewart, Harrison's closest ally, argues for resistance. "This is extortion. They're using social pressure to dictate how we run our business." "No," Patricia counters. "They're using market forces to assign costs to discrimination. There's a difference." Across town at Johnson Capital, Olivia monitors developments with her team. They've neither announced nor denied their role in Terra Nova's upheaval, maintaining strategic silence while the company determines its own response. "They're at the crossroads," David observes. "Harrison's culture was deeply embedded. Changing it means acknowledging how many were complicit." Olivia nods. "We're not looking to destroy Terra Nova. Their technology has value. But leadership sets culture, and culture determines who contributes and who benefits. That needed disruption." By day 5, Terra Nova's board convenes for the most consequential decision in the company's history. The debate stretches for hours. Some older members resist, seeing the demands as capitulation. Younger directors recognize the business imperative of evolution. The pivotal moment comes unexpectedly. Thomas Chen, a typically quiet board member, speaks. "My daughter graduated top of her class from MIT in computer science," he says softly. "She worked at a company like ours for 18 months. Her ideas were attributed to male colleagues. She was interrupted in meetings, assigned administrative tasks despite her technical role, and ultimately left the industry entirely." He looks around the table. "How many brilliant minds have we lost because we created environments where they couldn't thrive? This isn't just about legal exposure or stock price. It's about whether we're actually building the best company possible." His personal testimony shifts the atmosphere. The board votes 11-2 to implement all changes required by Johnson Capital's document. Day 7. Terra Nova announces a comprehensive overhaul. Their public statement outlines specific commitments: transparent pay scales to eliminate gender and racial gaps, blind resume reviews to reduce hiring bias, mentorship programs for underrepresented employees, and a complete restructuring of leadership to ensure diverse perspectives at every level. Most significantly, they commit to regular independent audits of their culture and practices, with results tied to executive compensation. The tech industry reacts with shock and rapid adaptation. CEOs call emergency meetings to assess their own vulnerability. HR departments dust off diversity initiatives previously treated as checkbox exercises. Venture capital firms begin including culture assessments in due diligence processes. Meanwhile, Harrison attempts damage control. He arranges meetings with former colleagues and industry connections, portraying himself as victim of woke capitalism. Initially, some sympathize behind closed doors. Then Bloomberg publishes an investigative piece titled Pattern of Prejudice: Harrison's History of Discrimination Claims. The article details settlements and NDAs from 3 previous companies, establishing that Terra Nova's board had overlooked documented concerns during his hiring. Former allies distanced themselves overnight, unwilling to risk association with toxicity that now carries measurable financial cost. Olivia faces her own challenges. Critics accuse her of wielding power tactics no different from those she condemns. A CNBC interviewer questions her directly. Some say you're using financial coercion to impose your values. How is that different from the power imbalances you claim to oppose? Olivia answers without hesitation. The difference is that I'm using this power to open doors, not keep them closed. Power itself isn't the problem. It's whether it's used to expand or limit opportunity. The conversation shifts the narrative. Business publications begin examining the financial impact of exclusive cultures, quantifying lost innovation and talent flight. Harvard Business Review publishes The Inclusion Premium, documenting higher returns from companies with diverse leadership. Within Terra Nova, transformation proves challenging but real. Some executives resign rather than adapt. Others embrace change with surprising enthusiasm, admitting privately they'd been uncomfortable with Harrison's approach but feared career consequences of challenging him. Patricia Winters implements a culture reset program developed with outside experts. Initial resistance gives way to cautious engagement as employees recognize the commitment extends beyond public relations. Anonymous feedback channels reveal lingering issues but also growing optimism. 3 months after Harrison's removal, Patricia presents the board with preliminary results: improved employee retention, increased applications from diverse candidates, and gradual stock recovery as the market recognizes stabilization. This isn't a quick fix, she cautions. We're undoing patterns established over years, but the trajectory is clear. Behind the scenes, Johnson Capital monitors progress through multiple channels. Olivia receives weekly updates from her team and the independent auditors installed at Terra Nova. They're making genuine progress, David reports during their quarterly review. Structural changes are being implemented as agreed. The question remains whether to proceed with investment once they've met all conditions. Olivia considers this carefully. Our goal wasn't punishment, but transformation. If they demonstrate real change, withholding investment would contradict our own mission. We need to recognize progress as clearly as we identified problems. 6 months after the confrontation, Terra Nova unveils its new permanent executive team. The leadership reflects genuine diversity, not through tokenism, but by recognizing previously overlooked talent within the organization and strategic external hiring. Patricia Winters, now confirmed as permanent CEO, addresses employees and shareholders. Today marks not the end, but the beginning of Terra Nova's transformation. We've learned that inclusion isn't a peripheral value, but a core business strategy. Tomorrow, we'll announce one final major change that will demonstrate our genuine commitment to this new direction. That evening, Johnson Capital Partners receives an unexpected proposal from Terra Nova's board, a partnership that would pioneer new industry standards for corporate culture accountability. The federal courthouse stands imposing against the gray morning sky. Inside, the hearing room fills with journalists, former Terra Nova employees, industry observers, and notably, Olivia Johnson sitting quietly in the back row. Today, Leonard Harrison faces a formal hearing on the consolidated discrimination complaints, now formalized as a class action suit with EEOC oversight. Harrison enters flanked by an expensive legal team, his demeanor still projecting confidence despite his fall from grace. His tailored suit and practiced smile suggest a man who believes in his ultimate vindication. The proceedings begin with opening statements. Harrison's lead attorney portrays him as a traditional business leader caught in shifting cultural expectations. The plaintiff's counsel responds by describing a deliberate and documented pattern of discriminatory practices spanning decades. When Harrison takes the stand, his testimony reveals his unchanged perspective. "I've always maintained a meritocratic environment," he insists. "If certain groups weren't advancing, perhaps we should examine their qualifications rather than assuming bias." The plaintiff's attorney methodically presents evidence. Internal emails directing recruiters to find candidates who would fit the culture with coded language about avoiding diversity hires just for optics. Performance reviews showing women and minorities consistently rated lower for identical work. Promotion statistics revealing stark disparities even among equally qualified employees. Harrison deflects responsibility to company culture and industry standards, positioning himself as merely operating within established norms. "Every executive in tech could be sitting in this chair," he claims. The turning point comes when his former executive assistant takes the stand. Jessica Chen testifies that Harrison explicitly instructed staff to treat visitors differently based on race and gender. Mr. Harrison had specific protocols for important visitors versus those he considered unimportant, she explains. "When Ms. Johnson's visit was scheduled, he told me to treat it as a diversity obligation meeting, not a serious investment discussion, despite the potential investment amount in the briefing materials." Harrison's facade cracks under cross-examination when asked directly about the "I don't shake hands with staff" comment that precipitated his downfall. "I treat everyone with the level of respect they deserve based on their position," he responds defensively. "That's just business." "So you believe certain people deserve less basic courtesy based on your perception of their status?" the attorney presses. "That's how the world works," Harrison snaps. "Those at the top earned their position and the respect that comes with it." From her seat in the back, Olivia observes, not with satisfaction but sober recognition. This case represents not just one man but a system that has protected and rewarded his behavior for decades. For every Harrison exposed, dozens continue their discriminatory practices unchallenged. After 3 days of testimony, the committee announces their findings. Harrison personally violated multiple anti-discrimination statutes. The penalties are severe. Industry disbarment preventing him from serving as an officer in any public company for 10 years, significant financial penalties, and mandatory disclosure of his discrimination history to any future employers or business partners. As the room clears, Harrison finds himself face-to-face with Olivia in the courthouse hallway. For a moment, they regard each other in silence. "You destroyed everything I built," he finally says, voice low with contained fury. "You built something that shouldn't have existed," Olivia responds calmly. "A company culture that systematically excluded talented people based on what they looked like rather than what they could contribute." "You had no right. I had every right," she interrupts. "You had power and used it to diminish others. I have power and used it to create consequences for that choice. The difference matters." Harrison's response dies on his lips as a news alert chimes simultaneously on multiple phones throughout the hallway. Reporters glance at their screens, then back at Harrison with renewed interest. "Mr. Harrison," one calls out, "any comment on Terra Nova's stock returning to pre-scandal levels under its new leadership? Does this disprove your claim that diversity initiatives would damage the company's market position?" Harrison pushes past reporters without answering, his carefully constructed narrative of victimhood crumbling as the market itself delivers its verdict on inclusive leadership. 1 year later, the Grand Hyatt Ballroom hosts the annual Financial Innovation Summit. The featured panel, Inclusive Investment Standards, the New Market Imperative, draws standing-room-only attendance. Olivia Johnson takes the center seat on the panel, flanked by Patricia Winters, now permanent CEO of Terra Nova, and representatives from major investment firms. The moderator opens with a pointed question. 1 year ago, Terra Nova faced crisis after discriminatory practices came to light. Today, they're outperforming market averages by 12%, Miss. Johnson, did you anticipate this outcome when you withdrew potential investment? This was never about punishing one company, Olivia responds. It was about challenging the assumption that discrimination has no cost. Markets efficiently price tangible assets, but have historically failed to account for the value of inclusive cultures and diverse thinking. The conversation shifts to concrete metrics. Johnson Capital presents its newly developed certification for inclusive workplace practices, a rigorous assessment now being incorporated into investment due diligence across the industry. Patricia nods toward Olivia. Initially, we viewed these standards as a requirement to regain investor confidence. Now we recognize them as competitive advantages. Our talent acquisition costs have decreased 22%, while application quality has improved. Employee retention has stabilized, particularly among previously underrepresented groups. A slide appears showing adoption rates. 12 major firms have fully implemented the standards, with another 30 in process. Even reluctant companies are following suit as the market begins assigning tangible value to cultural assessments. In a different arena, Leonard Harrison's attempt at a comeback falters. His new venture, a cryptocurrency exchange targeting traditional values investors, collapses when potential backers discover his history through mandatory disclosure requirements. Despite his claims of persecution, the market simply deems him too risky for investment. Johnson Capital continues its trajectory, now managing $75 billion in assets. Their most significant innovation, tying investment terms directly to social governance metrics with financial incentives for improvement. Former Terra Nova employees who testified against Harrison find themselves recruited for leadership positions elsewhere. Their courage, once professionally risky, becomes a marketable asset in companies eager to demonstrate commitment to healthy cultures. The industry's demographic landscape shifts gradually, but measurably. Statistics presented at the panel show a 15% increase in diverse leadership across the sector. Younger executives embrace the change enthusiastically, while the old guard increasingly retires rather than adapt. Other companies face their own reckonings. 3 major tech firms proactively restructure after internal assessments reveal potential vulnerabilities. A prominent venture capital firm replaces its entire partner group after harassment allegations surface. Each case reinforces the new reality. Culture problems now carry quantifiable financial risk. The Wall Street Journal runs a feature titled The Johnson Standard: How One Investor Changed Corporate America. The article details how a single confrontation catalyzed industry-wide transformation, not through regulation, but through market forces. As the panel concludes, Olivia addresses skeptics directly. Some call this woke capitalism, but I call it overdue alignment of values and value. Companies that systematically exclude talent based on demographics make irrational economic decisions. Markets eventually correct irrational behavior. As Olivia accepts the Industry Changemaker Award that evening, she approaches the podium with an unexpected announcement. Today, we're launching our most ambitious initiative yet, a $10 billion fund exclusively for underrepresented founders. Olivia stands at her office window, overlooking the city skyline as evening settles. The wall behind her desk displays Johnson Capital's updated investment portfolio. Terra Nova now prominently featured following their completed transformation and successful partnership. The journey from confrontation to collaboration unfolded more positively than many expected. Under Patricia Winter's leadership, Terra Nova implemented not just the required changes, but embraced the spirit behind them. The formerly toxic culture evolved into a genuine meritocracy where talent flourishes regardless of background. Most satisfying to Olivia is what doesn't make headlines: the daily experiences of employees who no longer face the 1,000 small cuts of bias. No more ideas ignored until repeated by male colleagues. No more assumptions about capabilities based on appearance. No more unspoken barriers to advancement. Marcus Phillips, once the token diversity officer with little actual authority, now serves as Terra Nova's chief people officer with genuine influence over company culture. His latest initiative, a transparent promotion framework based solely on measurable contributions, is being studied by other organizations as a best practice. Olivia turns from the window as her assistant announces the arrival of her 4 o'clock appointment, a mentoring session with young women of color entering finance. These monthly meetings represent her personal commitment to changing the industry's future composition. Today's group includes 6 promising analysts and associates from various firms. They settle into the comfortable seating area as Olivia joins them, deliberately creating an atmosphere of collegiate exchange rather than hierarchical instruction. After discussing market trends and career strategies, one young woman asks the question many wonder but few voice directly. "How did you maintain your composure during the Terra Nova incident? I would have lost my temper after the first insult." Olivia considers this thoughtfully. "I've played the long game my entire career," she explains. "Each slight, each dismissal, each assumption, they weren't just personal affronts but data points confirming what needed to change. Reacting emotionally might have been satisfying momentarily, but would have undermined the larger mission." Her mind briefly returns to her own early career, the 23-year-old Olivia being told by a managing director that women don't have the analytical mindset for serious finance. The same young woman working weekends while male peers advanced through golf outings and bar nights. The consistent pattern of having to be twice as prepared, twice as poised, twice as persistent just to receive equal consideration. Returning to the present, she continues, "I didn't build this firm just to make money. I built it to change who has power and how they use it. That requires strategic patience and choosing the right moment to act decisively." The conversation shifts to their experiences and challenges. Olivia listens intently, offering guidance rooted in both practical strategy and unwavering principle. As the session concludes, she walks them past the company's mission statement etched in glass. "Capital is power. Power requires responsibility." Weeks later, Olivia sits across from the CEO of a pharmaceutical company seeking significant investment. Unlike Leonard Harrison, this executive has done his homework. He presents not just financial projections, but comprehensive diversity statistics, transparent pay structures, and documented promotion pathways. "We've been implementing these practices for 3 years, he explains. Not because of external pressure, but because diverse perspectives improve our research outcomes and market understanding. Olivia studies both the data and the man presenting it, noting the genuine comfort he shows with his female chief science officer, who interjects frequently without hesitation or apology. She sees a leadership team that reflects genuine diversity of background and thought, operating with mutual respect. She extends her hand across the table with a genuine smile. "Now this is a company I'd be proud to invest in." True power isn't measured by who you can refuse to acknowledge, but by who you choose to elevate. What would you do with the power to change an industry? The story of Olivia Johnson shows that strategic patience and principled action can transform not just individual companies, but entire business cultures. Discrimination in the workplace affects millions, with studies showing that diverse companies outperform homogeneous ones by 36%. Yet biased treatment continues in boardrooms and offices worldwide. Recognition is the first step toward change. Before you go, take a moment to hit that like button if you found Olivia's story inspiring. Your engagement helps the Beat Stories channel reach more viewers who might need to hear exactly this message today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Beat Stories for more powerful narratives about justice, accountability, and the courage to stand up against discrimination. Turn on notifications so you never miss our new uploads, each one carefully crafted to deliver that satisfying moment when wrongdoers face the consequences of their actions.